This special program about Conelrad is presented by the National Industry Advisory Committee in cooperation with the Federal Communications Commission, the Office of Civil and Defense Mobilization, and the Department of Defense. It is addressed to all broadcasters and civil defense leaders. It is particularly aimed at station managers, program directors, and chief engineers. This program will be followed early next year by a series of regional briefings by teams representing the FCC, the OCDM, the National Association of Broadcasters, the Defense Department, and the National Industry Advisory Committee, which hereafter will be referred to as NIAC. That's NIAC. NIAC has developed an interim general plan that is now in effect. Every FCC licensee has received a copy. NIAC also has developed a national plan that is nearing final approval. This will be distributed to all licensees. It will be your Bible, so it is essential that all station personnel thoroughly familiarize themselves with it. Commissioner Lee referred to responsibility. One of the most important factors concerning Conelrad is the great responsibility of stations under it. The FCC has prescribed the following tasks for the state industry advisory committees. They are responsible for maintaining liaison with federal, national, state, and local officials and organizations. Working under NIAC, they are responsible for developing a workable system for communications and dissemination of information to provide continuity of service under attack and natural disaster conditions. This includes the establishing, in coordination with NIAC, of communications priorities, authentication systems, emergency national radio network interconnection, and the development and activation of effective statewide emergency communications networks. The local industry advisory committees perform about the same functions, but on the local level. It is at that level that the closest cooperation between local advisory committees and civil defense is most essential. In an emergency, the public will tune to Conelrad for all information. If there is not the closest coordination between the LIACs and local civil defense, the situation could be catastrophic. Last April 17th, there was a nationwide Conelrad test. It was generally quite effective. It could have been even more so had all broadcasters briefed themselves thoroughly in advance. There probably will be another test in 1960. This is to alert stations now to read up on the routines. Last month, a false alert was triggered accidentally in Wisconsin. It demonstrated graphically that many stations still did not know what to do in an emergency because they had not familiarized themselves with the interim plan. Had that been an actual attack, the result could well have been disastrous for radio. How effective is Conelrad in reaching the public? The FCC analysis of the April test reports, quote, intelligible service extended to approximately 90% of the total U.S. population, unquote. That is not yet perfect, but the entire Conelrad system is undergoing constant technical improvement. The addition of more stations has substantially increased Conelrad coverage. Many areas that were blank spots in April have been filled. The NIAC analysis of the test found that many of the blackouts occurred because eligible stations had not briefed themselves on the regulations and were unaware that they could join Conelrad. When a Conelrad alert is invoked, the official information is channeled through the OCDM, and its state and local civil defense staffs. Under the NIAC plans, a system of priorities has been established to end the problem of how local civil defense directors and local Conelrad stations can get vital local information on the air. The priorities are these. First, always first, is the presidential message. This is delivered by the president himself or by someone authorized to speak for him, such as the director of the OCDM. There would be comparatively few such messages. Second priority goes to the local messages from the local civil defense director and through him the local industry advisory committee. Thus, aside from the relatively infrequent presidential messages, local information has immediate access to the air. Third priority goes to state messages, such as from state civil defense directors. Fourth priority goes to national messages. These include most governmental and military reports, newscasts by the network pool broadcasters at the Relocation News Center, etc. The problem of identifying specific streets or buildings or areas of cities is nearing a solution. At present, specific identifications are forbidden. But because such information is vital to local populations, the OCDM and the Defense Department are reappraising the ban and have indicated a substantial relaxation is possible. To sum up, we have emphasized that Conelrad is an integral part of the nation's defense policy and will be for at least 10 years, as reaffirmed by the Defense Department. There was a nationwide Conelrad test last spring. Another is likely next year. NIAC already is seeking to have it scheduled at a time most equitable for all broadcasters, yet still in conformity with the objectives of the Defense Department and the OCDM. And finally, station managements must remember that under Section 606C of the Communications Act, which establishes the President's war emergency powers, the President, upon proclamation that a state of war or emergency exists, can close all stations, or he can take over all stations and communications, paying just compensation, or he can expect the full cooperation of broadcast licensees with a defense communication program such as Conelrad. It thus is clear that if broadcasters want to retain control of their facilities, cooperation with Conelrad is their only solution.